How are you?
So, as a lifelong Liverpool fan, there's no better way to start this podcast than by having a gentle swipe at a Man United footballing legend, Wayne Rooney. Back in the day, not only was he famous for his extraordinary footballing talent, but also for his remarkable ability to fill almost every sentence he said with either or you know. A quick glance on YouTube will allow you to see him doing and ums set to music. Or there's another particular video where they put a you-know-ometer on one of his interviews, and he must have said it, I don't know how many times, countless times. However, that same Mr. Rooney, for those of you who follow their football, is now a pundit on Match of the Day. And he has turned those bad habits into something a lot more positive. And he is, in fact, now a very engaging and impactful speaker. So welcome, everybody, to our podcast from the team of Speak the Speech. The podcast is called Breaking Bad Habits, where we as a team are going to explore some of the habits that we all have, our clients have, in the hope of working out where they come from, why we do them, and most importantly, what we can do about them. I am delighted to say that you have the full team here this time, including my dear friend and colleague, Mr. Boo Holmes. Wonderful to see you, Boo. And I'm going to get the team to introduce themselves, and they're going to do it whilst demonstrating their bad habit. So as they are introducing themselves, see if you can pick up what that bad habit might be, and then they're going to elaborate on that a little bit later on. So who should we start with? Janny, let's start with you, shall we?
Hello, everybody. I'm Jan, and that's Jan, short for Janice. It's not Janet, it's not Jeanette, it's Janice. It's Janice as in Joplin. Janis Joplin, American singer-songwriter. Oh, an iconic rock star back in the 60s. And she spelt her name, she's no longer with us. She spelt her name Janis for Sierra, not Janice, which seems to be the more common way of spelling Janice. And when I say common, I don't mean vulgar, I just mean the more popular way. And that's how I spell my name, Janis for Sierra, hence the Janice as in Joplin. But I always refer to myself as Jan. So, as I said, hello, everybody. I'm Jan.
Did you get that one? All right. Who was going to be next? Wasn't it? Boo was going to be next.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Well, it's great to be here, and I'm just going to talk about a few things that perhaps happen when we're not so comfortable.
Okay, thanks for that, Boo. I'm worried for you there. Very good. And was it Ruth next? Hello, Ruth.
Hi, I'm Ruth, and I'm really looking forward to sort of talking about like bad habits that all of us can get into every now and then. Hi.
Okay, thank you for that. And Mikey, how about you?
Hi, I'm Mike, and it's just great to excuse me, to be back in the Pod Shop studios here in London. So, after the success of our first podcast, all about generational, communication preferences, it's sorry, I just need to. So just great to be back.
Thank you, Mikey. And of course, so I am John. And so what I'm going to maybe do is kind of talk a little bit about the area that I would like to speak about today that we kind of see an awful lot of, maybe sometimes anyway, perhaps we often sometimes see it. And it's quite a common one these days, especially with younger people, but older people do it as well, kind of, sometimes, perhaps. We'll talk about that a bit later. Or will we? Maybe. We could do the whole podcast like this. I'm quite enjoying it. Shall I stop now?
Please stop.
Perhaps. Kind of.
Please stop,
Sorry.
please.
Okay,
It's
sorry.
too
Oh my
good.
God. Once you start, you can't stop. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go one by one, pretty much in that order, the same order as we did then. And we're going to explain what the habit is, why we get it, what we can do about it. Is that right? That's what we're going to be doing. And I should just say again, a wonderful thanks to a number of our wonderful clients have sent in some examples of their bad habits or some of their team's bad habits. We hope to cover all of those as we go along. So, yeah. Jan, shall you kick off then? What were you going on about with all that Jan this stuff?
Well, you may have guessed that what I want to talk about is over-explaining. As you say, why we do it, the effect it has on the audience, and a couple of tips of how to get over it. So why do we do it? There's some really interesting psychological drivers behind over-explaining. 3 of them. First one is, well, the fear of not being understood. A second one is this business about wanting credibility, a desire for credibility. And then the third one is to do with anxiety and lack of confidence. So this business about not being understood. Now, this can occur when the speaker makes some assumptions about their audience, and we have all experienced this. I know for a fact we will have done. We say something, we look at our audience, and what we see looking back at us is just this wall of totally blank faces. And then there's this little voice inside our head that says, they ain't got this. You're going to have to explain it again. Yeah. And we do. The bit about desire for credibility, now that comes about when the speaker equates detail with authority. So how can I let my audience know that I'm really knowledgeable about my topic? I know I'll cover it from every possible angle, and I'll give them lots of detail because that will show I've done my research, and they will see me as the wonderful subject matter expert that I am, won't they? And then that one about anxiety and lack of confidence. So anxiety plus lack of confidence often equals nerves. And if there's something that a nervous speaker doesn't like, it's what they perceive to be an awkward silence. So how do you get over an awkward silence? Well, keep talking, then you don't have awkward silences, do you? So that's why we tend to do it. There are other drivers as well. But what's the effect that it has on your audience? What you are actually doing is you are filling up your audience's brain with information at a pace at which they're unable to digest it. So they're just getting their heads around literally point 1 and 2 when you're force feeding them points 7 and 8. So rather than being engaging, what you're really doing is you are creating the perfect conditions for them to turn off and tune out. How can you get around it? I have one simple way around this, but it needs practice. And the simple way around this, of course, is shut up. Just shut up. When you're putting your message together, literally consciously build in full stops. And when we're speaking, what is a full stop? Well, of course, it's the magical power of the pause. Say what you need to say, pause, and keep quiet. And you 4, you all know how I bang on about this.
Yes, the water.
Yeah, the water.
Yes.
Whenever you're delivering a message, meetings, presentation, one-to-one, wherever it is, I always say to people, keep a drink handy, because it forces you to keep quiet. You cannot talk and drink at the same time.
That was Jan taking a sip of water for those of you who are just listening.
Well done, Mikey, yes.
In fact, think about your message as water being poured into a glass. Over-explaining occurs when you continue to pour, even though it's obvious that that glass is totally full.
Interesting.
Absolutely fascinating.
Very interesting, isn't it? When do this? We do this all the time. When are we more likely to be doing this, Jan? Are there any sort of situations where we would do this more than others?
I think one of the things is if we haven't prepared,
Off the cuff.
We tend to do it more. Preparation tends to ease it a bit. And it is that business about nerves. It is just one of those things. Just keep talking.
Yeah.
Often people want to get it right. So they have a list in their head, don't they, of I'm going to get all of this said. And that's, it's a crazy pressure. Because when you were speaking then, Jan, it reminded me a lot of sales.
Yeah.
Because one of the best selling techniques you can do, and all the times we work with people and their bids, we're always saying, once you've made that point, shut up.
That it's it, yeah.
You can talk your way out of a deal. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It reminds me too of the old adage that when we say everything, we ultimately say nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
fascinating. Very often when we do our courses, we get them to do this sort of introduction exercise first, don't we? And the amount of times, it's happened to me 3 times recently in the last couple of weeks, that the person who speaks the fastest takes the longest to do that introduction exercise. I've had some people, the average is normally about 3 or 4 minutes. And just recently we've had 11, 12 minutes. People, and they had no idea at the end of it that they've been speaking for that long.
Wow.
But of course, the problem is, as you sort of alluded to there, it just becomes white noise after a while, doesn't it?
Yep.
And we cannot take any of it in.
Attention spans are getting shorter as well, aren't they? So you talk for longer, you're just going to lose people.
This is it. So shut up. Pause. That's the big. That's your big tip number 1. Shut up. Fantastic, Jan. Thank you for sharing that one. Now, Boo, what were you demonstrating a little bit earlier on?
Well, I think it's really fascinating. When any land animal is upset, unhappy, unwell, particularly nervous, we have a tendency to make ourselves smaller, physically, emotionally, and vocally. So we make ourselves that little bit smaller to comply with the circumstance. And it leads to so many unfortunate things. We lose that certainty in our body language. We lose that certainty in our vocal that builds confidence in any audience. So it's one of the things that I feel really passionate about because it is, I think, a really quick fix. There's some really simple things you can do. One of the things that it's very difficult to demonstrate vocally, but one of the things that we lose is the things that send our message the clearest, our eyes and our openness, we close off and we often lose that eye contact, the things that can really enforce the legacy that we leave. So I always say to people, just try and always, if you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable, always try and just give yourself, it's almost like a pre-shot routine. It's that moment, just a beat to allow yourself to take that tiny bit of ownership. It's really interesting. One of the biggest ways to build confidence in any audience, even if it's a family pet, which obviously is a problem that I have.
Please don't going on about Coco.
But even if it's a family pet to an audience of 500, the quickest way, the most reliable and consistent way of building confidence in that audience is fill your physical footprint. Stand up, or as in most meetings, if you're sat down, just be mindful of those times that the energy goes into the seat. And you really don't have to do very much to build that confidence. If you're speaking to people, just have the energy coming out of the seat, stand a bit taller, make sure you don't close off those areas, the eyes and the chest that send your message so clearly. So it's a simple fix, but it's something that I often note happens so frequently. You'll be at a networking event or a function, and you'll just suddenly think, God, although I'm standing up, I'm leaning to one side, my head's dropped, I'm not making eye contact like I could. Make those changes because they make such a big difference.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I mean, and there's those sort of fidgeters, aren't there? The people with the hands who can't. I mean, that's another big betrayer of our discomfort, isn't it? When people start
Definitely.
fiddling with rings or burying their hands under the table or put them in the pockets. So we talk about the more positive use of those hands, don't we?
Definitely.
Using them to signal confidence and to add emphasis as well to what we're doing and what we're saying.
We always say in our courses, don't we, that what we do physically has a huge impact on what happens vocally.
Absolutely.
And again, for those of you who were just listening, Boo literally there made himself smaller. He was taking up far less space, and you didn't really have to try very hard to then speak with low energy in the voice because that physicality led to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing I thought was interesting about what you're saying there was the eye contact thing, as this comes up, and one of our clients was brave enough to admit to this little trait or habit that they have, which is when they are talking to someone, and I'm demonstrating it now for those of you just listening, but they go to a place where they're thinking, but they're there for so long that the person or people they're speaking to eventually realize that they're not even being looked at, and so they lose that connection and that engagement with people.
I think that's a really key point, because it's not just when we communicate. In most meetings, we're listening more than we're speaking. And a lovely lady called Maisie wrote and said, one of the things that our juniors have is the expectation that they're not going to speak in meetings, so they just turn up and sit in the meeting. But they actually can be so much more present just by listening with a little bit more positive body language.
Definitely. We talk on the course sometimes about connection batteries, right? And people's connection batteries have to be topped up. Otherwise, we lose the connection. And of course, we see that in the face-to-face world, but we really see it online.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of people who say to us, no one listens to me online. People, turn their cameras off or they're clearly doing something else. But very often that's the fault of the speaker, because they're not making that connection. We talk about looking into the camera, don't we? Being able to talk to the camera lens. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Keep those connection batteries up.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You reminded me of the first time I met Kev, and we were talking about our first date over the years. And I've said to him before, so what was it then? He said, it was your confident walk. I must have had my confident walk prepared for when I first met him, and that is that first impression.
Oh,
thing.
that's the lovely story, Jan. When we were first doing online coaching, and we talked about looking into the camera, and you had you put a photo of Kev above the camera, didn't you? Yeah.
So I was only speaking to him.
Yeah.
And then eventually I got brave enough to take it away and just speak to the camera.
Because sometimes in those, when we do webinars and you're the only camera that's on, it is lovely. The only thing is, I've got a picture of Coco next to my camera.
Well, I tried the same trick, but it didn't work for me because I'm not in love with Kev. so it didn't work, unfortunately. But perhaps I'll try my wife next time. Good. Boo, that was fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And we are going to listen to Ruth now. What was your, ask?
Yes, probably quite obvious. So I think this is probably the most common of the bad habits of the communication world. It's the ums, likes, the filler words. And look, the odd or is not a problem. We all do it, right? But it's when your speech is littered with them that it becomes a problem. It can make you sound less intelligent. It can make you sound unsure of what you're talking about. It can make you sound flustered. It just loses the integrity of what you're saying. So why do we do it? Firstly, it's a habit. It is a habit that most of us have all picked up since childhood. But it's also because we're thinking. It's like it's our brain kind of going, hang on, I just need a second. And it's usually because your mouth is going too fast for your brain to keep up. So your brain hits a bit of a speed bump. And instead of just stopping and taking a second, it fills that silence with some noise. And it's also a confidence thing. Like you were saying, Jan, silence is risky. If we assume that if we stop talking, people are going to think we've lost our way, we don't know what we're talking about, or that someone else is going to suddenly start talking, so that we keep the audio just running constantly. So how can we change this bad habit? Well, it starts with awareness. You need to be aware that you're doing it to be able to stop it, right? And then the solution is to pause. The same as you, Jan. It's that simple. It's just stop talking for a second, which may feel unnatural at first because you stop talking and then your brain kind of goes, I've stopped talking, this is a disaster. But actually, to us watching, you just look like somebody who thinks before they speak, who takes their time, who isn't rushed. And actually, that's really refreshing. And it can add to your presence and your authority. So, you tend to find that people that do use a lot of filler words tend to be quite fast speakers. So another thing we can do is just slow down the delivery 10, 15%, and then it allows your brain that time to catch up with your mouth. And you should find that just by slowing the delivery down, it eliminates some of those ers and those ums. So really, it's just slowing down, replacing those filler words with a pause. These are all really small changes, aren't they? But they do make massive differences.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, it would be more likely to, because you say we all do it.
Yeah.
In everyday life we do it a little bit, don't we? But it's more likely to happen when, again, we're underprepared or if we're out of our comfort zone, if we're in those high pressured situations.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say when it's off the cuff. If you have prepared, you know what you're talking about and you know what is coming, then you're less likely to do it. It's those times when you're put on the spot that it happens a lot, I think.
Yeah. It's really interesting that the quick fix you can make, because the amount of times, especially in the one-to-ones where people say, look, I don't want to seem big-headed, but I'd really love to have a bit more presence or a bit more gravitas. And that point you made about that pausing, just, if you're considered, it's almost like the audience don't have to do it. I've done it for you. And it just immediately gives you that air of authority for almost nothing.
True.
We talk about, on our courses, we talk about the power of the pause, don't we? And just those two little snippets of information has absolutely gone to reinforce just how powerful the pause is.
Yeah. So this is about retraining the brain, is it? This is what we're talking about here, isn't it? That awareness,
Yeah, it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time. It takes awareness. But it is a habit, and habits can be broken.
Yeah.
And of course, we demonstrate it in our courses with that wonderful speech exercise, don't we? Where people, to do the exercise well, they have to pause. We give them actual markers of where to pause and for how long. So they get that, they experience what it feels like to just, as Jan says, just to shut up for those few seconds. But because if it just stays in your head as a sort of theoretical technique, it becomes very hard to put it into practice, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I sometimes think a really good way of slowing down is that visualizing technique. That if you picture, even if it's just the first 3 or 4 lines that you're going to say, but if you set that as I'm going to pause, I'm going to breathe, it's amazing how that can then bleed into the rest of the talk.
Great point.
Yeah, you set the pace.
Exactly. Set your pace from the word go. Just visualize how you want it to go.
Exactly. And those of you with kids, a great game for young kids, which we used to do at the dinner table with my kids, was the game, right? Tell us about your day. 1 minute. You're not allowed to say or And they were terrible at it to begin with, especially the little one. You go, I go first. We'd all dissolve into fits of laughter, but they enjoyed that game and they got quite good at it. Because we withdrew their food if they said So there was strong incentive there. But these habits can start at an early age. So if you set good habits, right, then then that can only be advantageous. Lovely. Thank you, Ruth. Thanks for sharing all
stuff.
of that. Mikey, what was yours?
Well, there is a running theme, isn't there, about what happens to us under pressure. And I think all of our, those of you who've spoken up to now have alluded to that. And of course, you will have heard me clearing my throat repeatedly, which is a common physical response to stress or a perceived stress, perceived threat. And just yesterday, I was working with a chap on a one-to-one session. I occasionally help out with people who are preparing pitches, people with small businesses, well, hopefully soon to become huge businesses. And he was exemplifying this for the entire 10 minutes he spoke. Pretty much every second or third sentence was punctuated by a clearing of the throat. Not great in terms of a sense of clarity and confidence in the speaker. Why does it happen? And you're going to have to forgive me for glancing at my notes because there's a couple of phrases here that don't roll off the tongue, as it were. But muscle tension is an obvious one. Stress causes muscles in the neck and the throat to tense, causing a sensation of a constriction or a lump, technically known as, are you ready for this? Globus pharyngeus.
You made that up.
I might as well have.
Rolls off the tongue.
So, of course, that's something we feel the need to clear. I won't go into too much detail, but increased mucus coupled with dehydration, anxiety can obviously increase. Well, I say obviously, this was actually new to me, increased mucus production. And you add in the fast breathing and a bit of dehydration, it makes the mucus a bit thicker, sorry for the detail, but causing us a need to clear the throat, to remove it. And of course, and this is something I'm happy to admit to having experienced, especially with my play a couple of years ago, the first couple of nights, dry throat. Anxiety will cause dry mouth and throat, leading to that irritation and that sort of tickle, which again encourages us to clear it. This blew me away, and it probably applies to so much of what we do when we're under pressure. It's this thing about habit formation. So the brain learns that clearing the throat provides a brief release of tension. And so it turns the action into a habit that repeats whenever stress levels rise.
Got you.
Incredible. So what impact does it have? As I say, as a speaker, we of course become aware of it. It's going to have an impact on our levels of confidence in what we're saying. And of course, for the audience, if it happens once or twice, it would probably go unnoticed. But the minute it starts happening 3, 4, 5 times and becomes a repeated punctuation mark in someone's talk, then of course we're drawn to that. It becomes an oral distraction, but possibly even an emotional distraction. We do begin to worry for the well-being of the person. We wonder what's troubling them when it happens to that extent. So what can we do to combat it? No great surprises. I've done it several times this morning already. Stay hydrated. Drink plenty of water to keep the throat moist. We're big, aren't we, at Speak the Speech into those breathing techniques when the pressure is on. Deep breathing. There are dozens of them out there. I know Ruth is brilliant with the box breathing and stuff like that. So that can help reduce the underlying anxiety and relax those neck muscles. And again, finally, and again, I was very good at this morning, just reducing those stimulants. So coffee, caffeine, obviously, will exacerbate the dehydration. And as we all know, can just make us that bit jittery when we really don't want to be jittery.
Yeah. Is milk as well? Is that sort of
milk
milk's not good for the throat, is it?
Strongly advised to avoid milk for because it coats the throat, doesn't it?
If it happens a lot with people, there's a really almost cast iron exercise you can do to relieve it and to cure it. So if you rock your head back, apparently it releases and the vocal cords become very, very relaxed. So if you rock your head back and then make the k sound. So you go,
Saved that one for the
Swallow.
podcast, didn't he?
You did.
and it's as clear as a bell.
We've literally had 2 rehearsal sessions.
I've only just thought of it, but
I remember you
Slips into the
talking
mix
about
on the
that.
day of the actual.
that one.
But can these people in these sort of high exec meetings go, one second?
no, you do it beforehand.
Oh, you do it before. Fair enough.
But,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And I know we keep going on about pausing, but is that another thing there that can help? Because obviously, when you pause, you can
Going back to Jan's
swallow
point,
and
you take that sip, you just give yourself that moment.
yeah.
But yeah, again, so much of what we're talking about, they tie in with each other, don't they? They really, really do. But taking that time, taking that breath.
I think it's also being aware of it as well.
I was going to say that, there's a common theme here, isn't there, where, of course, they're habits, so we're very probably unconscious of them.
Yeah.
The first thing we need to do is become conscious of them.
Absolutely.
And once we've got that consciousness, once we've got that self-awareness, then we can start
and that's
implementing.
That's why our sessions work so well, because people are getting that live feedback. Throw in the filming, recording of what they do as well, and they're getting feedback that they just never ever get.
Yeah,
and
all at an unbelievably low price. Moving on. If I had a $5 for every time I've had someone on my course say to me, my objective for today, I think, is I need to be a little bit more assertive. Really? Do you think so? So, yes, my subject is those qualifier words with a little coda at the end of it, which is the upward inflection, which has become a real habit these days. And we'll look into that as well. So why does this happen? Well, I'll tell you what is not the reason. It's not a lack of intelligence. In fact, very intelligent people tend to use qualifier words. Why, Jan? Well, because they see nuance in things. It's not just black and white. They will look for multiple interpretations. So it's actually a sign of intelligence. But of course, the effect it can have is the opposite, which I'll go into in a little bit more detail in a moment. So yeah, it's not a lack of intelligence, actually. So why do we do it? Well, I'm going to break the speech habit. And rather than talk about 3 reasons, there are really 4 main reasons why we do it. We don't like to be wrong. A lot of people don't like to be wrong. It's like, don't shoot me, don't blame me. So we'll kind of sort of, maybe perhaps because we don't want to put ourselves out there too much, to be knocked down, right? It's wanting to be liked. All right. So the self-awareness questionnaires that Jan does and the self-awareness courses that we run, it's all about that. We have those people, like a couple of us in this room, who like to be liked. And so we don't want to appear too arrogant. We don't want to appear overconfident. And so we will, again, couch our language with those little maybes, kind ofs. Like is a big one. And we've had a few people write in about the overuse of like. So that's another reason. It can stem from childhood. It can stem from education. Maybe you went to a school where, you got told off a lot for having a very strong opinion about something.
And
or maybe
beaten out of you.
Get beaten out of you. It can be that. It can be those childhood. It can be those people who used to interrupt and got told off for interrupting. So that's another reason it could be. And social groups and culture. So if you're surrounded by people from certain cultures, which I'll get onto in a moment, that tend to do it, or people at school or people in your work who tend to do it, then that can have a big influence on you as well. So what's the problem? Well, look, sometimes a maybe or a sort of can be appropriate. I mean, it's not illegal to say maybe or kind of, right? Especially if you are forecasting uncertainty, or perhaps if there's some legal nuance or something like that, or incomplete data. But of course, it's not so much the use of the qualifier words, it's the overuse of the qualifier words that can become a problem. And my saddest example of this was back in 2010 when there was a fatal air crash involving Air India. And it was coming into land at Mangalore airport and it overshot the runway. And when they did the investigation, they found the black box and they were able to listen to the final words between the first officer and the captain. And the first officer knew this was happening. But instead of being very direct and warning the captain in the strongest terms, he said something like, "Sir, I think maybe we might be coming in a little bit fast, and I think perhaps we should, go round again." The captain ignored, and the plane unfortunately crashed with a massive loss of life. So, this is the problem when you lack that conviction, when you couch your words with those qualifiers, then you will not sound as certain. You will not sound as assertive. So add that to the upward inflection at the end of a sentence, and you've pretty much got the perfect storm of uncertainty. And that upward inflection, again, it's a habit that's crept in. I'm quite happy to blame the Australians for pretty much every bad thing that happens. I have wonderful Australian relations. Hello there, if you're watching. But the Australians very much do it. So you're going to meet at 3 today, for example, rather than we're going to meet at 3 today, right? So that statement will turn into a question. And there is actually a term for this. Yes. It is called high rising terminal. HRT. High rising terminal. Or don't go there. Don't go there. High rising terminal or up talk. Yes. So that's what it is. And again, we all do it a little bit from time to time, but if we overdo it, and we have some clients who do it almost every sentence, turning those statements into questions.
Yes, I've been working here for 3 years.
I've been working here for 3 years. Yeah. I work at a bank. Oh, do you? You sure? Yes, I'm sure. So what can we do about it? Well, again, look, it's all about being aware, first of all, and then it's about forming new habits, and it's about changing some of that language into more positive language. So instead of saying, perhaps we could, I recommend. Maybe we should think about, in my opinion, we should, right? And look, this is not about turning him into some sort of, person without any nuance at all and becoming arrogant, but it is about in those certain circumstances where you do have a serious point to make and you do want to be taken seriously, that you are able to become untrained translators of your own intelligence.
Wow.
Do you like that one?
Yeah.
Someone's been on
Very
Google.
good.
Yeah, someone's been on Google. All right, I didn't come up with that myself. Converting nuanced thought into crisper, cleaner, more assertive speech.
Yes. So they become going from untrained to trained translators of their.
Is that not what I said? Rewind the tape.
Interestingly, John, I think that it's made me think of the tie-in with the bit that I talked about, that certainty in the body language. And the great thing is, if you find a bit of certainty in the body language, or if you find a bit of certainty in the speech, it often helps the other. And I think that's so it's double whammy almost.
It is. Yeah.
I
Brilliant.
just loved your observation that there are some people around the table that like to be liked.
Oh, yes. There's at least 4. You're the only one who doesn't. You don't mind, do you? I think you're the only one who doesn't. Yeah. So any last thoughts on these bad habits then, team? What can we leave our lovely audience with?
I think the great news is that there are lots of bad habits, but like we always suggest, the changes are tiny. No one's having to reinvent the wheel. It's just if you try and become a little more aware, you don't have to do very much, and the difference that can be made is massive.
It does take practice.
Yeah.
You do have to make an effort. That would be my lasting thought.
Make an effort.
Yeah.
Awareness is everything.
Yeah. That period of conscious competence where we are aware that we're doing it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would say like we do on the courses, the best way of actually getting that awareness is to see you in the way that other people see you. So seeing yourself on film, I know people find it really awkward, but it is so useful.
Yeah.
Because we do so many things with our bodies and our faces and our voices that we have absolutely no idea we're doing. And if we
Totally.
see it as another person is seeing it,
Yes.
suddenly something clicks.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, look, if Wayne Rooney can do it, a Man United player, anyone can do it, right?
Yeah.
We'll leave you with that.
With your smile, how are you? So well.